Hey good people, it's Kia coming back at you. This edition is from Outside on the Deck. It's Memorial Day weekend and I got this tent so that we could be out here on the patio and not get eaten up by the Georgia mosquitoes. It's been some interesting weather. It's almost, like 90 degrees here, high humidity, no breeze. So the tent is lovely, but one also would need a fan with a mister. So that's next on the list of purchases. But anywho, I'm just here to talk really quickly about Monaco and all the racing this weekend. I watched the Indy 500 for the first time yesterday too, so I'll give my very brief thoughts on that. So the drivers' conference was interesting. Okay, so here's the thing. Again, with the journalists and the F1 drivers, I just don't understand. I understand like they want to get emotion out of the drivers. And again, I feel like the F1 drivers are probably a lot more articulate and transparent. And even, dare I say, emotional than you get from other sports. So they always ask the drivers questions to prime them, which I don't know. I think maybe just because I tend to be like a more private person, I don't like when people ask you questions just to get an emotion out of you. And so someone had asked Charles a question about like, what would it mean to get a podium in Monaco? And I loved his response. He was like, not much. Because he wanted to win. And so, for him, second or third was not going to mean much. It was not going to mean what he needed. He needed the win. And, they were setting him up for that primed question. Oh, it would be so emotional. No, it wouldn't mean nothing. What number one? The end. So I really appreciated that. And I thought he gave a good response also to the question about, what is it to be, like Charles Leclerc in Monaco, when he really is just like his parents' son. And he gave like a thoughtful response to that. He had talked about how, he had done an event in the city center and some of his schoolmates were there like filming him, and it was just like a weird position to be in because he feels like he's the same person, even though like the start-stop place of the race is where he used to catch the bus, to go to school. But I also it's really interesting because it's like if you're constantly, putting this thing together in your mind for, decades, you're at the start finish position, catching the bus, but in your mind, you're racing an F1 race car, then it's inevitable. You're going to race an F1 race car on this very street. And that's what he did. It's a perfect example of like living from the end until the manifestation comes. So I really appreciated his whole weekend, how he put the whole weekend together, how he got his pole, he kept his composure, how he put the race together, how he kept his concentration for the whole race. I thought that was fantastic. So congratulations to Charles. He deserves that. And I also laughed because again, these F1 reporters, one was, I think it was Lawrence, was asking Lewis, it seemed like he had more confidence in the car because of the times that he put up during practice. And Lewis just looked at him like, I always have confidence. Like, what are you saying? And he was very elegant about it, as Lewis is. But it was, the look on his face was hilarious. The reporters need to do better as it relates to asking questions, and they would get better responses. Max, I kind of laughed because when he was in his practice, he said that he was bouncing around like a kangaroo, and it just reminded me of Lewis when they first had to change the cars up, and he had the porpoising and the bouncing, and folks, were kind of laughing at him because he was constantly complaining about it because he wasn't used to having a terrible car. So to hear Max giving the same complaints was sort of funny, to me, ironic. That's it. I mean, obviously the first lap of the race was kind of chaotic. There was that red flag, and we thought it was just initially about Carlos' car smoking, but then you realize that Checo's car was kind of cracked, and the wheel, had the front piece had come off, and that was just crazy. It's also crazy that like nothing happened as a result of that. And then you saw that Esteban had rolled over Pierre. which also was crazy. So that first lap was crazy. And then I stayed awake for maybe like the first half of the race. And then I'm going to be honest, I fell asleep because it was, you know, there wasn't much happening. It was more like a parade. And then I woke up at the end when Charles won. And that's it. Again, you know, congratulations to Charles. It was funny. I was wondering, because I know like when Lando won in Miami, Lewis was like, you have to stay in Miami and party. And I was like, I wonder if Lewis is going to stay and party with Ferrari. You know, if the Crown Prince was going to invite the Black Knight, you know, to come party with them in Monaco. But I guess that would have been a little too egregious to be partying with your future team when the season is not yet over with the team that you're currently with. So I guess he probably didn't stay and party with them. Another thing that I thought was kind of weird, again with the F1 journalists, God bless them, after the race they kept asking about the after party, like where was it going to be, like asking people on camera, and then like could they get an invite, especially Laura. She kept asking like could she get an invitation to the after party, and I'm sure she was like half joking but also like half not. And I get, you know, being in Monaco and wanting to go to the race, but can't girl hook that up off camera? Like, I feel like she mentioned the after party in the post-race show at least 10 times. And now, you know, that would be like, you know, like after the Super Bowl or something, you know, you're talking to them, you're like, oh, you're gonna go party, da-da-da. But no one's like, okay, well, which club are y'all going to? Or, I mean, that's just a bit egregious. I don't know. I mean, I get that this is sort of like a traveling circus, and so you have your journalists who are traveling with the drivers, and, you know, they're always together, so that, you know, they're friends, or I guess, I mean, I don't know. But, girl, stop begging to be invited to the party on camera. That just was embarrassing. So yeah, like if that happened in any other sport, like that journalist would be fired. Like you can't, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just a bit much. But anywho, that's just my two cents about that. Like, girl, stop begging. Oh yeah, so I did watch the Indy 500 for the first time yesterday. You know, it was hard to enjoy because I watched it on Peacock, and there were commercials. There was more commercials than race. You know, there just was more commercials than race. But it was interesting because there's so much track. So it's a lot more interesting to watch because the cars are battling like the entire time. And I did, you know, like Marcus Ericsson, I remembered him from Drive to Survive, and of course Romain Grosjean, who could forget him walking out of the fire. They didn't really talk much about him in the race at all because he was towards the back the whole time. And then Marcus, unfortunately, got hit through, you know, no fault of his own. Yeah, I mean, it, you know, seems a lot more dangerous, IndyCar, and just wild, a lot more wild. Some of the moves that you saw in that, I mean, it's like kamikaze racing almost. So yeah, it would have been nice to see the race without all the commercials, and then I probably would have more to say about it. Honestly, I don't need more stuff to watch, so I probably won't take up watching IndyCar, but it was cool to watch two races in one day, or half watch two races in one day. So there's that. That's all we have for now. I think the next race is Canada. So back in North America, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, and I'll be back to talk about that then. All right, y'all. Peace.